Reagan, and today I'm here to bring you a book review of Rebel of the Sands by Alwyn Hamilton. Now this is the Proustopia book club pick of the month for the month of June, and we are working with Penguin Random House this month. Our live show will of course be at the end of the month per usual. So this book overall, I have to say, I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it a 3.75 stars. It definitely has some really strong elements that makes it a great fantasy debut, but it also has some areas that it needs to work on, but I think they can definitely improve on in later books. Now, before I get into like the nitty-gritty of the review, let's talk about overall what it's about and my overall thoughts. So this is what I would best describe as a historical fantasy with like Western elements. I say Western elements because we follow our main character Amani, who's grown up in this small desert town, and she is a sharpshooter. She's like a fantastic shooter with a pistol, which just by and large was one of my favorite elements of this book. But anyway, a stranger comes into her town one day and she takes it as an opportunity to escape the like crippling small town life that she currently lives in, and then from there her destiny unfolds and the story unfolds. So like I said, this book had a lot of strengths that I really appreciated. One of them was definitely the setting itself. I thought the author did a really great job with painting scenes. I always felt like every setting we were in, be it the small town that she starts out in, being a bar fight, being in the middle of the desert, it was very richly described, and I always had a sense of how and what was going on, if that made sense. Like, it was very richly described, which I appreciate. And this book isn't long, and I wouldn't say it's really dense on descriptors, but the words the author uses makes the scenes feel very much alive, which is something I appreciated and I really liked. And I also just generally like this setting. It is a historical Persian, Middle Eastern inspired setting with genies and magic and things like that. And it's just, I found every location to be very intriguing and also just like well described. Like I almost feel like I could feel the grit of the sand. You know what I mean? Like things like that. It's just like little things that I really appreciated. But on the flip side of that, well, I felt like the setting was very well and like everything was well described and things like that. Where this book kind of had a little bit of flaws, and I think it has a lot to do with the length, was the world building overall. So like the setting world building was great, but when we got more into the magic system, because there are magical elements of this world and of this story, things kind of got a little hit or miss, meaning I totally understood what was going on, but I just wanted a little more background of what was going on. And some of the background we got was great, but I literally just wanted more. Just like backgrounds to my fantasy stories. I love a history lesson. I know some people hate it, info dumping, but like literally, sometimes I really enjoy it because I'm a loser. Moving on from like the setting itself, I'm going to talk about the characters. Our main character Amani was one I definitely really enjoyed reading the perspective of for two reasons. She was very flawed, which I liked, and she was sassy as hell. She is so determined to leave her small town, like I mentioned, that she'll do anything. And because of that anything, a lot of times she makes mistakes, and mistakes that I don't feel like I could deal with, and I feel like she's facing throughout this novel the consequences of her actions and growing from those. I feel like it's done really well, and I feel like we're gonna see her as a character continue to grow throughout the series. So I like that she's flawed and she's not perfectly heroic at all, because it doesn't really make sense for someone who's grown up in a cutthroat town where she's consistently been treated very poorly, and she does live in a society where women themselves are not given very many rights or treated with respect or treated with authority. And so she, you know, is a product of her environment. She has to, you know, be very, very sure and just act and not think sometimes. And that is true to where she's growing up. So that's something I understand, but at the same time I appreciate seeing her grow as a character throughout the story. But to also talk about, like I said, she's so sassy. She's so funny throughout this book that it was definitely her dialogue moments were my favorite part to read. I really, really liked it in her interactions with other characters. I also loved especially Jin, who's definitely like the duo character within the story. He's the mysterious stranger she runs into. He's the one that kind of brings her along on the destiny, and together their fates become more entwined than you would initially assume. Their banter back and forth was amazing. Like, she would not put up with his crap, and I loved it. Overall, like I said, I really enjoyed this story, and I feel like it's setting the landscape up for a much richer continuation. I really love the setting, and kind of where the story takes us to, you can see how this story that's initially really starting kind of a two-person journey is going into something much larger, much more politically based, which I appreciate. I also enjoy, besides Imani, all the characters have their own flaws in a way, and yet their rationale for their decisions makes sense, even if they're wrong. You kind of understand how they got there, and sometimes it's tragic, and sometimes you're like, why? No, do something different, but you also get that they're fully believing in what they're doing, which I appreciate. Some other flaws in this story that I think will be rectified in later books. In the beginning, this wasn't a problem because there wasn't a whole lot of characters, but when a lot of characters started getting introduced at the end, because we kind of run into a crap ton of people at the end, it was kind of hard for me to keep track of who was who, I'm not gonna lie. Like, people would be mentioned, I'm like, wait, who is that again? What are they doing? And it kind of got a little confusing, but I feel like the more I'm introduced to these people and I get used to seeing them, it'll get easier to follow along. I'm very excited for the next book because I do feel like it's going to be better. This is a debut novel, so I just feel storytelling can only get better with experience and with time, right? So I just think this story has a lot of potential. Like I said, love the setting, love the main character. I really think the magic is cool and unique, and I'm excited to see how it's explored in later books. And yeah, I gave it a 3.75 out of 5 stars. If you're interested, check it out. And again, of course, as usual, Sasha and I do a live show at the end of the month, which is coming up. So if you have read this and you want to hear some of my spoilery thoughts, tune in, watch, enjoy with us. Alrighty guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys soon with another video soon. Goodbye!